shortly after Mop came out.
Exactly.
I mained a Pally tank all the way, from like mid Wrath to that point. Like rated pretty competitively in Kata, and then just kind of like lost interest, life caught up, etc. So getting back into it, like finding information like the stuff that Towley used to put out back in the day, where it was like, here are the little tips and tricks, the like ins and outs of your class that let you maximize, what it is that you can do to make life easier for your DPS, for your healer, etc.
For sure.
Just not really there anymore. Like Tally doesn't seem to, unless, I mean, maybe I'm just missing it, but it seems like that sort of like in-depth advanced mechanics things are just kind of missing these days, which is a bummer.
I 100% agree. So like the first thing I ever did was the pull by pulls, and like I kind of hint at like things I do specifically in a pug as a tank to minimize the brain power required by the DPS so that they can just go in and DPS. Because if I can take and shoulder the majority of the responsibility, like the run's already going to go like 100 times smoother, So like that's what initially wanted me to like start the other series of being like, okay, now you're a brewmaster. What can you do in certain scenarios to, take that and shoulder that responsibility with like, clips of showing like how to do it.
I mean, I think that's, so your pull by pull series, like I literally linked that in my Discord channel for for all the folks that I'm gearing. It's like, just watch it, get get the knowledge down, just so that you have some idea of like what it is that we're about to do. And I've watched those videos probably like 3 or 4 times now a piece, just so that I mostly have all those.
The number one fan right there.
Okay, you're gonna focus the auger, now you're gonna move on to such and such, right?
Right.
But which is amazing, and like I was super excited when I finally found those videos. So like, thanks for doing that.
Yes.
But then when it comes to things like in Junkyard, right, when you're pulling some of the groups on the side of where you've got like Trixie and what's his name, but you're pulling them on the side closest to the final boss, like you can fence hop, and it like causes the mobs to have to like run all the way around. And so it's like little things like that that I've picked up occasionally from tanks that will sort of like share little pieces of information. But there's not really a repository where people have said like, hey, here are all the fun little things that you can do, to mitigate damage that you're taking, so that your healer's not going every single pull.
Right.
And for somebody like myself who like the basic skills are there, I haven't lost them, but the advanced stuff, like I've been out of this game for 12 years. It's hard to pick that stuff up, super quickly without being able to reference somebody else's information.
Yeah, that makes sense. 100% agree.
Yeah.
It's like that's kind of like where I was stuck at. I was like I want to put this information out, but then like the more I thought about it, the harder it got, because I was like, okay, do I do like, here's an Atal video and here's all the tips and tricks I know, but because of the way this game works, like it's going to be outdated in a week because there's going to be like new stuff, and I can't just add on to a video. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like I don't know how to. I mean, I'm working on like a website, so like it'd be much easier for like a written guide, and then I could just like keep adding to that.
Yeah, that was legitimately what I was gonna say. Is like, man, if you just had your own website.
And I think that's where Moose and I, like, that's our goal for Shadowlands, because one, I put these pull by pull videos out like hella late into this expansion. So one of the reasons why I wanted beta and alpha, and like as soon as I, can play the game, I'm gonna try to crank these out super early, so that hopefully it reaches more people. Because when you get obelisks thrown at you, you're just like, what are these? Like, how do I use them? Like, are there optimal ways to use them? Like, I don't even know what they do. Like, things like that. Like, I want to get that out super fast to reach more people, as opposed to just the guys that are coming back and have, not been around for a while.
Yeah, that makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
So, like, to accompany those videos, because, like, the videos are like, yeah, if you know nothing about it, like, they're going to help you. And then, if you know some things, like, you might pick up 1 or 2 things from the video. But, like, a written guide, I can continue to update. I can have a tips and tricks section that I can add to. And then for, like, video content, I guess, you could just do clips of being like, hey, like, this is how you do XYZ. opposed to just trying to do like an entire video and squeeze everything into it and then be like, okay, here you go.
We'll update this in 2 weeks when all of this is changed.
Right.
Yeah.
Or it's like this got nerfed or this got changed or this is new, like things like that.
Yeah.
Maybe do an MDT video and highlight some pulls that have tricks.
It'd be awesome to see that, because I know that that's the kind of content that I was like digging for and just couldn't really find.
Yeah, 100%. I appreciate that kind of like feedback. So now I can like have a direction of where I'm going.
Yeah,
so like my pull by pulls on YouTube start that way.
They took the my girlfriend brothers and a couple of friends of mine from like them wiping like repeatedly on zeros to like smoothly getting like 3s and 4s with their relatively undergeared characters. So I mean, the information itself is super helpful.
Nice. Well, I appreciate that. I'm glad it's helping.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, like those MTD
a lot of gray
videos
hairs that I won't be getting as early as I would otherwise get them.
Right? So what I do is
Stop CCing the Juggernaut.
I'll take my route.
Just move out of the way.
And I'll do like a pug friendly, generic route. Like this will work with a pug and you can still time it even with deaths. And like that's kind of what my videos are right now. And then like every once in a while I'll throw in like, oh, if you snap this pull, it'll be better. But the problem is the pull by pull videos are aimed at people, who are trying to push higher keys, trying to get a little bit better, try to get their weekly 15s. And then you throw something like snapping at them and they're like, whoa, what's snapping? So now I have to explain snapping, but I can't do it inside the pull by pull video. So you know what I mean? So like that's where I get tripped up. Where like, well, I should just do like its own video. I'll be like, this is snapping, here's snapping in freehold, the tall, like things like that. So I think I can mess around with that a little bit. But again, like I said, it's weird being at the end of the expansion because I feel like I put it out and people are just gonna like troll me in the comments and be like, oh, this is old, like everybody knows this. But it's good practice, one, because I'm not a video editor and I'm learning all this myself. And two, like I'll get some good feedback, I'll get some bad feedback, and then when going into Shadowlands, I'll be able to produce like better content and just, start right off the bat, like just hit the ground running, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But I think that'll work. That's kind of the direction I want to go moving into Shadowlands.
I mean, it's also cool. I mean, the skills like snapping, things like that, like those don't really change, right? So if you explain the basic skill, what is snapping, or like what to look for in potential places to snap, pulls or whatever. So you're kind of giving that foundational knowledge. So it's like, okay, cool. Maybe I didn't understand what snapping was exactly, and now I've seen a couple of examples of it in dungeons that I know because I've run them now. And then once you understand how it works, you can take that into Shadowlands and have an idea of like, okay, cool. So I know that I should look for X, Y, or Z traits in elevated platform or something, so that I can begin to experiment with snapping on my own. It's because I understand how it works.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. I think I might make that next actually, because like snapping is really easy for me as a monk. And like you said, just throw like a couple of examples, like super obvious examples, like in a tall, where if you jump to like the ledge, like the mobs have nowhere else to go. But things in Junkyard, it's a lot harder. And like I literally find them just by running over things, like running over a cog or running over a fence. Like you don't know, like you just break the Z-axis and then things snap, and you're like, oh, okay, this is a new snap point. Like, what can I pull to this snap point? But like a basic video, like you said, explaining what snapping and why snapping is important. I think that's a good idea. And like it's a good start. And then, like you said, people take that information and then practice with it.
It also applies to like your corruption, right? Like if your corruption pops on you when you're on like a slope, if you move up or down the slope a little bit, it just won't trigger you because you're not on its same plane of existence, and so you effectively don't exist as far as the damage is concerned.
Right. Yep.
Like, that stuff that that I only found out because I just happened to be paying attention to like my character's location, being like, why am I not being targeted? Then saw it happen in a couple of YouTube videos in arenas where people were like on steps and just like moved up a step. Like, oh, okay, so it's like the same idea. That stuff's useful.
Yep, I agree. Perfect,
And
man.
it transcends the current meta or like optimal route, right? Like those things are things that are always going to be useful.
Right. Yep. And then I don't have to worry about it being like outdated because it doesn't.
Exactly.
No, 100%. I like that. Nice. This is perfect. See? Synergy. Everybody working together. I like it. It's like, I'm not gonna lie, man. I was stuck. I was like, I have all these great ideas, but it's like I'm at the end of an expansion. What do I do? But I mean, it's a good way to get my foot in the door, get noted, like recognition, like start building up the community that I have here in Discord. Like, I mean, it's crazy. This Discord it took off, and like YouTube kind of took off. I mean, we're almost at 2K subs, and I was like, whoa, 2,000 people like enjoy the way I explain things and like care about the information I have to say. Like, that's mind blowing. It's crazy. So I mean, I'm eternally grateful, and it's been exciting. I never in a million years would have been like, oh, like I always thought like when I do something, I feel like this is really optimal and it would help a lot of people. But I never like took it a step further to actually like put it out there to see if other people felt that way. So this is awesome. That started back in.
Yeah, man, you do a really good job of like very clearly.
That's what I go for. Okay.
You're highlighting and when you're slowing stuff down, I think it makes it really easy, especially for people who are new to the game or like coming back after a long break and you're like, oh, super remember this stuff. It's just like, oh yeah, that's right.
Soon, TM. Right. And that's where like I have fun with it, because like the slowing down videos and stuff, like that's all self-taught, and it's like super fun to learn like what I can do and just to make it like that much more easy. Soon TM.
That stuff is super helpful. Like let's see, before I started watching your videos, this is it's like night and day for me. I did an Ataldazar 2. I was, like relatively, I think I was probably geared approximately at the level of Ataldazar, and it just like I didn't know who needed to be CC'd or when or like any of that. And it was just a nightmare. I don't think we even got to the first boss and just wiped like 4 or 5 times because I like wasn't able to make callouts, didn't know really what the mechanics were, like how things were interacting, and it was just a nightmare. So that's when I went looking, and then I found your pull by pull videos, and I was like, perfect, this is exactly what I needed. And then like now it's stupid easy. And just shut my brain off. I'm like, okay, you're gonna CC this, you're gonna CC this, kick when I say kick, like easy mode. So like that stuff makes a difference.
Nice. I'm super glad.
Yeah, man.
And then, like I said, like as soon as I can, I'm gonna crank them out as soon as possible for Shadowlands for each season, which is great because it's like content for me and it gets the information out there. You don't have to wait to the end to be like, you can just hit the ground running and just start right away. Be like, oh, okay, this is cool. And like what I try to do is take like, maybe not like the top tier like MDI plays. Well, I guess you could say that. I try to take what happens in the MDI and not like, no offense, but like dumb it down for like easier digestion. You know what I mean? Where it's like people see the MDI and they're like, whoa, how do they do this? And I was like, honestly, it's all about execution. Like they'd make the same pulls that we do. Like some are slightly larger, but like you could do them too as soon as you get like a solid group that understands that it's all about interrupts and lockdowns and CCs. Like the damage will come, and like as your damage gets higher, the more pulls you can make, but it's all about execution of those interrupts. So like I try to do is I try to take those pulls, break them down into micro size and be like, this is what they're focused on. This is what they're kicking. As soon as you get rid of this mechanic, the pull becomes 100 times easier. And then like you get better, you get faster, and then you progress that way. So I think from your testament, it sounds like it's working.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, the fact that you're able to sort of break it down into the prioritization of like, this is your top priority spell to kick, this is your second, this is your third. that makes it really easy. It also makes it really easy to then pass that information along in Discord, like during a poll, right? Like, okay, so you're gonna want to look for the renormalizer, and when they're casting shrink, kick it. And if you've got a mage, like let enlarge happen, and then just have the mage spell steal enlarge, right? So like that sort of thing makes it much easier for me to then go and like my girlfriend's been playing MMOs now for 2 months, like brand spanking new. So for me to then be able to take the information that you've provided so clearly and just pass it along at the same level without having to try and reword it or like make it sort of easier to disseminate is phenomenal, right? I can just like verbatim just spew out whatever it is that you said in your video, done, which is really nice.
Perfect. That's exactly what I went for. It's like I tried to make it as black and white as possible, so that because like I said, my whole shtick is pugs. Like I want to make pugging great again, and I tried to reach out on Reddit to find out why people don't want to tank keys, and like I was gonna make a video on that, but like there's nothing I can like. You can't fix the toxicity that's in this game right now, and that's the number one reason that people said why they don't want to tank pugs, because as soon as you go in there, and if you don't do a route that somebody else did that was more optimal, they just tear you a new one. Like, I mean, it happens to me still. I ran an Atal, and like my Atal route is pretty good. Like, if the DPS is there, we'll 2-chest it. Like, I'll never 3-chest it, but like that's kind of weird. But like we'll 2-chest it, and like that to me is more than enough. That's fine. Like I'm happy with it. But if I run with a healer that is like 4k IO, and I do something that's slightly different than what they're used to, like they just tear me a new one, and it's like it's just where the game is right now, and there's nothing I can do to fix that, and it's just bizarre, and like people don't want to even be part of that environment, so they just don't tank pugs.
Yeah, and that's what's kept me from tanking.
Yep.
Right, is that toxicity, because like I'm used to paladin tanking. I'm trying out a new class for the first time, and like I know what the WoW community is like. That's nothing.
Yep.
Unfortunately, right, that toxicity is not really anything new, and I think stuff like this, where you have the opportunity to have like really honed, optimized routes, and if you stray from that at all, people just lose their shit. It's like,
Yep.
hey, take a breath. It's not the end of the world. Also, you might learn something from a route that's different from what you usually do.
100%. Yep.
There's not really anything to lose here. Also, you're still gonna get gear, so calm down.
Right, you're still gonna get gear. At this point, you're still gonna get echoes. You get like experience. Like it's just, I don't know. People lose sight of that, and like it's all like, I don't know. People just want more and more and more and more, and like nobody's happy at like, just chilling, man. Just you got the key done. It boosted somebody's IO score. It might not have boosted yours, but it boosted somebody's. Be happy about that,
Yeah, there's a distinct lack of empathy in the gaming community when it comes to stuff like that.
100%. And then the second most thing that people said that why they don't tank pugs was like the amount of responsibility that is put on a tank's shoulders. Like they don't deem it fair. And it's like, I was also going to make a video about this where it's like, if you like what to expect or like what you can do to be a tank in World of Warcraft. Like anybody can just play a tank class, but like that doesn't make you a tank. Like to me, what makes you a tank is understanding positioning, understanding what you can do to make your group more successful, like things like that is what makes you a tank. And so like people don't agree, or they don't think it's fair that because you're the tank, as soon as you join a group, it's just like common knowledge, you should know the route, you should know what to do. If you're in Discord, you should be the one making the callouts. Like you're shouldered all the responsibility just because you're the tank. And it's just like people just expect that. And a lot of people that shy away from pugging tanking is because they don't want that responsibility, and they don't think it's fair that they can't get invited to a group if they don't know the most optimal route.
I think some people thrive on it. Like that was what originally drew me to tanking, was I like that stuff. I like being the person who has to have everything memorized. But that's a type of that's like a personality thing. That's not for everybody, and it's definitely true, right? It's intimidating. I have like plenty of friends who are like, yeah, I'll just stick to healing or DPS so that I can not be the one that is held responsible for all those things, unless we wipe, and then everyone rages at the healer because obviously it's their fault,
Right.
not the DPS who pulled the extra 3 groups.
Thank you for following.
Exactly. And like that's how my wife feels. Like my wife has played this game for a long time. She understands things. She understands how to tank. She understands how to heal. She understands how to DPS. But like if you just throw her into like a +16 with a bunch of randos, she doesn't want to tank because one, she doesn't know the routes and she knows she's like and then like the toxicity kicks in and like she just doesn't want to be part of that. And it sucks because a lot of people, like the majority of people feel that way. And I'd say the 1% feel the way me and you feel, where it's like I thrive off that amount of responsibility. Like one, I like being in control because if something goes wrong, I can only blame myself. Unless, of course, you get the one hunter that like multi-shots through the wall and TD pulls through the wall. Like that stuff's out of your control.
Always a hunter. Every time.
But like I love that level of responsibility, and unfortunately in this game, like you don't need that level of responsibility, but like going into tanking, you should expect that other people expect that level of responsibility. And it's like that message needs to get pushed out to like the people who want to tank but aren't sure. But those people that aren't sure, they jump into tanking, then they get teared a new one and the toxicity hits, and then they never want to tank again.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's, I mean, that extends beyond even just tanks, right? Like if you're a DPS and your DPS isn't as high as someone thinks it should be, then like, woe unto you.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's absolutely the case. When you're a tank and you don't know all the routes, I am human.
Right?
No.
You don't know if someone just came back to the game. You don't know if someone's been here for a while. This leads into like my other thing I was going to do is like I should just start a freaking podcast and talk about these kind of things.
Dude, honestly, that is definitely, it's a conversation that I think a lot of people have individually or, like with maybe their close group of friends that they play with, but I don't think it's something that is engaged with in a wider sense.
I agree.
For whatever reason, we don't want to talk about the fact that like, gaming community is super toxic, although we're seeing now more and more signs that that's the case. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I wish I had like a bigger platform to talk about this kind of stuff because it irritates me that you get people like Rekful that it's like he was part of this gaming community and like the toxicity that he had to deal with obviously did not help his situation. But like, when people are talking individually like we are right now, everybody feels bad. Everybody's like, no, there is definitely a toxicity issue. We should fix it. But when you get into a group of people, everybody just goes right back to the alpha male ragging on people like you suck, blah 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 blah. And it's weird for me because like I don't like that like mentality. I don't like that environment. But because of like the level at which I play at, you're surrounded by it. You're in that, and it's like I'm the type of person like I can just take it and like move on, but someone else can't, and I feel like just as a community we need to do something to fix it, and it's that conversation is never ever seriously going to be had because you're just too sensitive, you're this, you're that, just suck it up, blah blah blah, and then it's just round and around and around we go.
It's the YouTube comment section, but it's it's in WoW chat because
100%.
If
Maxwell Hammer, thank you
I
for
think
the Prime.
this
Welcome.
kind of goes back also to what you were saying about like being in Discord with people. Like when you actually are talking to someone, you can hear their vocal inflection, and you hear maybe your tank is new and you can hear like the tremble of a tank who's nervous and is not sure what they're doing, right? You're going to be a lot nicer to that person because
100%.
Captain, someone has gifted a class 2 access pass.
Everybody who plays this game wants their group to succeed, wants every individual in their roles to succeed. But when you don't have that interpersonal connection, it's just you're looking at somebody's undead monk character on a screen. You're not really thinking about or not connected with the person that is actually playing that character, right?
Right.
And that allows for that toxicity to then persist, even though if given the option, I don't think, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think people are generally interested in being that shitty to one another. But
Right, and I 100% agree. And it's that whole keyboard warrior mentality where it's like you said, that personal connection you get when someone joins your Discord and they say, "Hey, what's up? Hey, what's up?" You're like, "Oh, okay." Just judging by voices, like he sounds like he's my age, he sounds like he's younger, blah 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 blah. But you can make better assumptions about things. And then it's like you said, if I hear like a healer join and like they sound like they don't, it's hard to say because like I mean obviously everything's like an assumption, but like if they sound like they're not like a super strong healer, like not confident, they're just kind of like someone that enjoys playing and maybe they play with really good players so they have a high O score, like whatever the case may be, like I'm more likely to put up with people if we're talking in Discord. Because like let's say that run we just did, right, the hunter got in Discord and he died to something, but like it didn't matter. But like if it didn't matter, I could be like, "Yo, what killed you?" And then maybe I can explain something that would make him not die that time next time, or maybe he lagged out, or there's 1,000 things that could have happened. But if you're not in voice to talk about it, everybody just assumes the worst. Like, "Oh, this guy's trash. He just died. Like, this is horrible. Let's all rag on him." And you're protected by that keyboard barrier. But if you're in voice, like, I've never been in Discord where someone openly is just like, "Yo, kid, you're trash," and then like leave the group and leave Discord. Like, I've never, ever, ever had that happen. So it's like, I think just joining Get Discord fixes a lot of things. I am lagging. Uh-oh. Yeah. I love when you lag and roll. You just roll forever. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe someday I'll have a big enough platform to talk about this stuff, because I doubt it's going away anytime soon.
Ooh, I'd be very surprised if it went away anytime soon. It's been around forever. It's going to continue to exist. Until collectively, people are just like, okay, this is not worth it, right?
Right.
It's pushing away new players, which I mean, if WoW has this issue of declining player base, like making it difficult for new people to come in because all of the folks who are more experienced just like dump on them when they mess up every time. Like, you're never going to retain new players. You're never going to get folks who want to try it out and want to get into it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think the first mythic that I ran with my girlfriend, she's playing Warlock. She does not have a lot of haste, and she's new to the game as a whole. And so like her DPS wasn't amazing. That's putting it nicely. It wasn't very good. But she's new to the game, right? And it was like whatever, some super geared warrior just like calls her and another one of the other players in the group retards because their damage wasn't good enough, and then leaves. And then she didn't do another mythic for 3 weeks because she was too afraid of it, because she didn't like getting like shit on by some random stranger on the internet.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's not okay.
Right, and like my wife just said, like she has PTSD from her first dungeon ever, and like it even starts super early, right? So if you're a brand new player, you want to be a druid because shape shifting's cool to you, whatever your immersion is, you want to be a druid, so you're a druid. And then you're like, "Oh, I'm a bear, I can tank, this is cool, what's the tank do?" So you might do a little bit of research, be like, "Okay, I'm the guy that takes all the damage." Sure. So I hit level 15, I joined my first dungeon, but now you're in a group with hunters that are like, this is their 5th alt. They're decked out in heirloom gears, like they don't really need a tank, but it doesn't matter. You don't know that yet. You're just, you're just there. So you're like, "What's up, everybody? Let's do this." And like, God forbid you die, or you pull too slow, or you go the wrong way, like they're just gonna tear into you. And then you're never even gonna want to like play the game with other people ever again, just because, level 15 you're dealing with this. What's it gonna be like, at max level? It's probably gonna be worse.
Which is objectively true. It does only get worse, unfortunately.
Yep. And like my wife and I were talking about it earlier, where it's like she plays Fire Mage. And now everybody expects, like, you see a Fire Mage in group, like Combust is really, really overpowered, but you need to have the mastery, you need to have the comfortability with the class, you need to understand the pulls, like what to combust into, where's your ignite gonna spread. Like, there's a lot that goes into it. Like, just because you're a Fire Mage doesn't mean you're gonna be top of the meters. And like you said, as soon as you're not top of the meters, you're called trash. Yeah. You're the worst. And I mean, I'm guilty of, like, I won't call people trash, but I'm guilty of it, because like if I, put a group together for a plus 18, and I get a Holy Paladin, my expectation of that Holy Paladin is like you should be able to like, you know, peak at like 70k DPS, you know, on a single target pull. Like you're not going to sustain it, but like you should be up there. I shouldn't see you at 20k DPS because I know the power of a Holy Paladin, but it's unfair for me to like voice that and like make somebody like belittle somebody for it because I don't know their gear. I don't know how comfortable they are with the spec. Like I don't know when they started playing, and like that's just me being responsible and like holding it in. But I'm absolutely guilty of like thinking that because, you know, that's just the caliber of which I play at. But what happens is people don't stifle what they want to say and you just tear into people and then you never see that player ever again. And it's terrible.
Yep, that is definitely true. It's the power of that keyboard shield.
Yep. Recommend all.
Which, incidentally, would be a great transmog in the game, albeit a little ironic, but...
Keyboard shield, that would be amazing. Oh, I would love it. Especially on a warrior, I'd be a keyboard warrior.
Oh man, that would be incredible. It might be a little too on the nose for Blizzard's taste.
100%.
But it'd be a good one.
Just need it long enough for a screenshot. You're finally gonna play serious come Shadowlands, so I'm new. What you're talking about? Well, but that's the thing. It's like
that, you know, you're talking about it. It's a thing that you're, you know, conscientious of as you sort of look to expand your platform and whatnot. And you know, I'm definitely
right. It's weird because of like the level I'm at and like the level I want to get to. It makes me mad when I see people like Asmongold who has this humongous following and could make a change, could make a difference, but doesn't. And like I know it's not his responsibility, but at the same time, it's kind of his responsibility. You know what I mean? Like as soon as he says something negative, like, you know, his army's off to the races with it. Right? They just and like they just go off. And like that's just, you know, that's where he wants to be at. That's fine. Like he says he can't control his chat, but like he absolutely could. I mean, look at Tally. Tally streams for like 2,000 people and he loves it because he knows those 2,000 people share the same mindset as him. It's not toxic. His chat's not spamming nonsense. Like they're all there together. It's a nice community to be in. But, like that's why I like watching people like Towley. And I used to like watching Asmongold because like he always had that stigma of like try to be the best, but he did it in a way where it wasn't very toxic. And then he got to the level at where he's at, and now it's like it's a little bit too toxic for my taste.
And what's interesting is I was talking about this with a friend of mine who is also, you know, like has played since vanilla. He's like, man, you know, like initially Asmongold was like pretty okay, and then he got super toxic, and now he's like not as bad as he used to be.
Yep.
And you know, I was just watching one of his videos earlier, and the fact that it is not as bad as it used to be, and is as bad as it currently is just
sad, really. Yep.
Yeah. And also, you know, like you said, you know, it's not his responsibility, but at the same time, when you do have,
I do like Dratnos too.
You are a steward of this community, whether you want to be or not, right? That's one of the responsibilities that comes with, you know, the notoriety of being such a big streamer.
Mm-hmm.
And it, you know, I think that it's unfortunate to see that in some ways, you know, he kind of hasn't held up that portion of it. I will say, you know, like when all that stuff was coming out about, oh shoot, what was that organization's name? I'm totally blanking on it. But with all, like the sexual assault, yeah. You know, like
what was that number one?
Okay job, and I found myself being like almost proud of him for doing an okay job.
Right.
You know.
I mean, and he also just recently came out with like a video about Recful and mental health and online mental health. But it's like I said like earlier, where it's like, it's kind of like those kids in high school where like, God forbid you had a friend that died to drinking and driving. You know, you all have a gathering at the school and you talk about how like, this is terrible. We're never going to drink and drive. But those same kids are at a party Friday night drinking. And like, I've seen it happen firsthand. I'm like, how can you like be like that? And I feel like Asmon's kind of in that gray area where like, yeah, he put the video out and it shows that he like genuinely cares, but take it a step further and like shut it down in your chat. And like, yeah, you'll lose a bunch of people because they want to be in the toxic community, but like, be like Tally, like be in a community where it's not about that, you know? Like, you shouldn't want to be around toxic people. Like, I certainly don't. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
I
followed Tally legitimately since I think before I started playing WoW, I started researching essentially like how to play a paladin tank, and
Yep. Tally the tank.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Jam. And I have remained a like consistent viewer of his YouTube videos because A, like his content is good stuff, and B, the way that he approaches gaming and the way that he approaches his community reflects my values in gaming and a gaming community, which is like you don't have to be a jerk to be successful, right? Like you don't have to scream at people in raids to make them not mess up. And if anything, screaming at somebody and calling them out like that is more likely to make them nervous and make that same mistake because they're so hyper focused on not making that mistake and don't want to even consider what the consequences might be if they do. Rather than that, and being able to like take that step back and say like, okay, what happened? Let's break it down. How do we make sure that doesn't happen again next time? Which is how he approaches those things. I like that. That makes sense to me.
100%. And like that's the guild I'm in right now, where my guild leader does an excellent job at like picking and choosing when to give discipline, and never hesitates to give like praise. And like that goes a long way. And it's crazy because you have to get away from that stigma of like you have to be toxic to be successful. And like for a long time it used to be that way, but I feel like now there's definitely a shift where people don't want that anymore. Like this whole guild that I'm in now practically left a guild because of that reason. And like you're getting these 12 of 12 really good players, they just want to play the game. Yeah, they want to play at a high caliber, but they don't want to be belittled and dragged through the mud because they missed a kick and like God forbid we wipe once. You know what I mean? Like, but at the same time, they can still be like I messed up on our Mythic N'Zoth kill one time. Like I clicked the wrong bomb, right? But like everybody didn't jump down my throat. We were just like, yo, what happened? Okay, let's fix it. Like that's it. And that's where it needs to be. And like that's the kind of environment I want to be in. Like I want to be held responsible for my actions, because if you don't, people they're just going to keep messing up. They're not going to know they're messing up. Like people need to be called out, but in a constructive, non-toxic way. And that's what I really, really like about this guild right now, is like that's where everybody is, and like it's the same mindset, and it's great.
That's awesome. That was my raiding guild back in Kata.
Dude, Hobbs clipped it and sent it to me. He's like, bro, you clicked the wrong bomb. I was like, I know.
I won't say it was casual per se,
but
it like wasn't the type of environment where people would just like freak out at you if you didn't do the thing. It's like, okay, cool, we wiped, not a big deal. Who missed their thing? And rather than sort of shying away from taking ownership, when you have a group where everyone is focused on the goal of
the turnover, 100%,
and not necessarily like perfection.
Right.
You get that space to be like, that was me. I clicked the wrong bomb, or I didn't pop my bubble and sit
6
things
weeks,
to absorb,
Jesus.
Whatever. So that we didn't.
People are adapting and growing. They don't want to be part of it
maybe
anymore.
I fingered that key 30 seconds ago, so I don't have that cooldown right now.
Yep. And it's like, and at the same time, like if you do want to play at a high caliber, like you should be held to a higher standard. But again, you don't have to be toxic. So like this past raid week, like our raid team just played like booty, and like there's no denying it, and everybody agrees. So like our raid leader was like, you know what, like you guys played like shit. And then I guess somebody complained. They said it was a little too harsh to say that. So then he like addressed everybody, but he didn't apologize, and he didn't take it back. And I respect him for that, because like there has to be a line, right? You have to be held to some sort of standard. Now, like, could you use different verbiage? Probably, but like, that's like a personal thing you can fix with whoever disagrees or whatever. But like, if you don't have that line, no one's ever gonna get better. No one's ever gonna like hold themselves to a higher standard, because like they don't want to be the reason that everybody gets called shit. And like that's how I look at that thing, where it's like you're all playing like shit, but it's like, okay, what did I do that makes me fall into that category? And if it's nothing, then I just brush it off. But if it is something, which there's always something somebody can do to be better, like you just take it and move on. Like he wasn't saying you're benched, he wasn't saying you're trash, he wasn't saying delete your account. He was just saying like he is very unhappy with how we're playing right now, fix it. Which is totally okay. And I mean, if you want to be a Mythic Raider and push cutting edge, you have to kind of expect that type of behavior. Like, again, not the verbiage, but like that standard has to be there. And I think people too often mix up that standard with the toxicity level. Like, I have to call you trash or you're just going to keep messing. It's like, no, you just have to point out that I did something wrong and tell me to fix it. That's it.
Yeah. And saying like, hey, team, you're playing like shit is... I mean, you can. There's so many videos on YouTube of like, crazed raid leaders like screaming at, like going off, which are hilarious. Don't get me wrong, but also
I like that too, man. I agree. Yeah,
that's not the right way to handle it. And just saying like, hey guys, like you're playing like shit tonight. There's no malice behind that, right?
Right.
And everyone can acknowledge like, yeah, that's probably true. Like I missed 2 kicks. I missed a kick. Like I'm not at my best, right?
100%.
I can see how some people would be like, well, that's a little harsh, but I don't know. That feels like it's just being honest, right? There's no
100%, and
there's no malicious intent behind it. It's just stating a fact.
Right, and that's how he attacked it the next day. Well, I guess that's not a bad word. That's how he addressed it the next day when he was like, people are saying that it was a little harsh. He didn't respond with, well, just get good forehead, which I feel like a lot of people do because they see like, well, that must be the way that's the way it is, right? That's the only answer I can give. But like, he gave that response where he was like, there was no malice behind it. It was just like, you guys were playing really, really bad, and I wanted you to know. And then like, we got a little bit better. We cleaned up a little bit of our polls, but then we got to N'Zoth, and like the same stupid mistakes were happening again. So it's like he addressed it again, and like, yeah, we got our kill. We finished the week, but he let us know that it was very unacceptable. Like when you down a boss and you have 3 people alive and it took, 3 minutes to get through the last 10%, like that should not be acceptable. Everybody should hate themselves for that. Not hate themselves, but like everybody should be upset with how they performed in that type of scenario. And I totally agree with that. But it's all about how you like address it and go about it. And just being like, hey, raid team, like you're really shit in the bed right now. Like you said, I don't see any malice in that. Now, if somebody has an issue like, oh, I don't like the cuss word, that's too easy to fix. But he can still say you're all playing really, really bad. So the same message gets sent across. It's just verbiage is too easy to fix.
Right, like that's a conversation you can have on the side with that player and be like, hey, if me saying shit is off-putting to you in a way that maybe it's then hard for you to like sort of internalize any of the feedback that follows it because you're whatever you're upset by that specific word, then like cool, I can fix that. That's not a big deal, because it's not about the message itself. It's really just about the word that you're using, and that's
right. And I'm super thankful that we have a raid leader that listens to that type of stuff because, again, going on with like the whole you have to be toxic to be successful. Like on the other hand, you have to bottle everything up inside, not say anything to anybody to be successful, which is obviously not the case.
Especially when at some point you eventually snap.
Right. I mean, we're all humans. Like nobody likes to be talked down to. Nobody likes to be called shit. Like nobody likes that. But like we all need to be held accountable. So if like, however you can be held accountable and like receive constructive criticism, like let your raid leader know. And then it's up to him to be a good, like this goes for real life too, like managers, bosses, like you have to understand how your employees better digest constructive criticism. Like me, I was in the military for 11 years. Like if you want to get in my face and scream at me and blah, 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 like I'll take it on the chin and I'll just like brush it off and be like, okay, he obviously wants me to do better. But that's me. Now, if you yell at my wife, she just shuts down completely. She just won't listen and she's just done. And it's like, you have to understand how people receive different information. Like I said, if it's as simple as like, don't say the word shit to me, like, okay, easy fix, boom. But people are afraid to have that conversation with their raid leaders because they think they're going to get called, a pussy, or they're going to get called out, or they're going to be benched, or like whatever, because, they showed feelings. And like, that's the other side of the stigma of toxicity, where it's like, now we're just letting toxicity happen because if we speak up, like, we're the losers. Rating at
and
C
I think,
requires critical
it
yourself,
was
fixing
interesting.
every
I'm
small
sort
mistake sometimes.
just kind of looping Asmongold back into this because I watched
Yep.
a video of him
Totally agree with that.
sort of like watching a bunch of like highlights of really toxic clips, and one of the points that he made was like, well, you should want a raid leader that gets mad because it means that they care. And while I agree with that to some extent,
I get called a
yes,
crybaby
you want
all the time.
you want your raid leader, you want your oof, wow, Lego. You want people to be committed and you want them to be emotionally invested because you want the group to succeed. You don't have to be a dick about it, right? Like there is a difference between the two. You can care and not be toxic, and unfortunately that is definitely something that I think either the community is unwilling to acknowledge, sort of back to your point of like showing feelings then being considered weakness, which is ridiculous, or it's like, well, it's just how the game is, and that's whatever.
Right. And that's the type of mentality that I try to get everybody to get away from, is like, oh, that's the way it's always been. Like, okay, well, look where it's got us. And like, it's all about reading the room. Because I mean, if you're with a group of friends, like when I play with Hobbs, right? Like we rag on each other all the time. Like if he messes up, I call him boosted. If I hearth in the middle of a mythic dungeon, he calls me boosted. And like, that's fine because you understand like where you're at. But like what started this whole conversation was like the Pugs, where it's like people just start at a toxic level. And it's like, you don't know how that person's going to react. So now they're just like, okay, well, I'm done with this. I'm never going to pug again. It's like, okay, that's one less person in the pool that we have to tank for this. And it just escalates and escalates and escalates. And then you get those people that were, a victim of toxicity, and now they're being toxic because like, they might be better than, like, you're always going to be better than somebody, and someone's always going to be better than you. But like as soon as that toxic person's better than somebody else, like now they're being toxic to the people that aren't at their level, and it just keeps going and going and going, and it's never going to get better. And it's weird to be like, oh, that's just the way it is. Like you just have to deal with it. And it's like it shouldn't be like that. Like people use video games as an escape. Like you're telling me your escape is just belittling other people? Like you're just a terrible human being then, I guess.
Sounds like you need therapy.
Right? And it's like,
I mean, we could all use a little therapy, but like maybe those people a little bit more so than others.
Right. That's like straight up sadistic right there.
Yeah.
You don't want that.
I mean, it's an unfortunate piece that.
Yep.
I think the more people are talking about it in a public way, the better hopefully it'll get over time.
Right. And I wish. I don't know. I wish Asmongold did more about it, because obviously him, like, again, like reading the room, like when he's doing his transmog competitions, like everybody's under the understanding that like he's probably going to tear you a new one, but everybody's willingly going into that. However, when he used to do his videos where it's like, oh, if you're not top on the DPS, like you're trash, and like you have to do this, and like if you're on the top, you need to belittle the people that are below. Like he changed from that, which is great. But because that, like, he did that for so long, that's kind of like where his chat's at. And I mean, you got 50,000 people watching you every single day. They're going to try to emulate you. And if you don't shut it down, they think it's okay. And it just spreads like wildfire. And I don't wish him to, like, hugs and kisses all over the place. I just wish he, like what Max does when he streams, like he shuts it down right away. If people are just being like, oh, Ian's just dodging this question, he's doing, like, he shuts it down. He's like, no. Just because he's not giving the answer you want doesn't mean he's dodging the question. And then everybody's like, oh, okay. Like he keeps them in line, but lets them express themselves to a point. And I feel like Asmongold just lets his chat run wild and occasionally glances at it. Like, and I feel like he's the person that has so much influence that could definitely change like something.
I mean, in a lot of ways, he's sort of like, Mr. Warcraft, because he's been playing for so long.
Right.
So that, wow, Lego, that is.
King shaming sadistic people, I love it.
Might have missed a little context.
Right. Oh shit. Oh, that's funny.
I mean, I guess, short story here is like, I appreciate the way that you're, putting information out there and approaching these conversations. So like, Keep it up. From where I'm sitting, you're doing a good job.
All right, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, dude.
I'm gonna have to like snip this up and throw this on YouTube, and it'll be like the start.
Do it up.
All right, you guys heard him. I got his permission.
It's been recorded. I think the more that it's talked about, and the more that people are, sort of aware that like, hey, this is a thing that you can talk about without, feeling like you need to be shamed for having an opinion that maybe differs from, the public display of the community. That doesn't mean that it's not valid, and that maybe it's something we should all be pursuing.
Yep, I had the same discussion with my leadership in the army, because like, oh, the army's like this, and like, I don't know, the world's changed, man. It's not the same anymore. Like, you can't be like that.
Yeah. And
it's hard for like the older generation of the army to be like, well, why is everybody so sensitive? Well, the world's changing. It's like not necessarily sensitive. Like, I mean, there are some people like, you get the kids that cry because it's day one of basic training and they can't call home. Like, that can get snuffed out. But like, not wanting to be called a pussy because you think it's the alpha male thing to do, like that's what I used to like. I squashed that shit right away. Like the hazing and all that. Like, I'm not about it. And like, I'm 6'4", so like, if you want to do something about it, we could do something about it. But usually, like, I just spoke up and was like, no, I don't play those kind of. I don't like. We call them fuck games, and like, I don't play that game. I don't play that. And it's like, I'm here to do a job. You're here to do a job. Like, I don't need you to make me try to feel less of a man because XYZ. And it's just things like that. Like, people are afraid to speak up because of like reprisal or being called out. And then now you're, like you said, you're shamed for feeling a certain way, so you think there's something wrong with you, and in reality, it's the other way around.
Yeah.
But it's all right. We'll fix it. No. Cryo, fixing the world. Word, I will do my best.
Definitely needs to be said. Needs to get out there. And when I think part of it is also, when you have people who are playing at a high level saying these things, then it's more likely to also be taken seriously, right?
Yes.
You have somebody like me who's just getting back into the game, and I spend a lot of time, and I fully intend to play at a very high level, but like, I haven't done any mythic runs, I haven't even done heroic, right? So if I'm saying this sort of thing, people are like, okay, whatever, casual,
right.
Keep your mouth shut. But if you have people who are like pushing that cutting edge of mythic rating, who are participating in these things where it's like, okay, you're at the top, you're the top 1%, then it actually matters, because like, okay, so you can say these things and feel this way and approach situations in this manner and also still be at the top of the game.
Right.
Now it's something that people will pay attention to.
Yep. And I try to point people in Max's direction, because like I'll admit I didn't know too much about Limit and in Max, but like, I like Max as a person because he's not toxic. Like, he addresses these things and he lets people know that like, it's not okay. Like, just small things like, oh, you're not getting invited to a Mythic Plus because you're not triple BM hunter. Like, he acknowledges these things and lets them know, like, even at a high level, like, it's not okay. Every spec in every class is viable in a Mythic Plus from like 25 and under. But like, nope. People just think it's the right thing to do to shame and be toxic and all that other nonsense. And like I said, we just need bigger people talking about it.
Yeah, I totally agree. But also, everyone should roll a BM Hunter alt.
Obviously. And stack CD.
I mean, of course.
Still's the exact one you want. You can, right, exactly. Like, it takes time to grind up that gear, but you can get it. But what happens
also,
is...
a little less RNG would help too. That's definitely...
Yeah, you're not wrong. But what happens is, like, I see a Fire Mage, and, like, I expect, hey, you know, they must know Mastery is really good for them. The Mastery vendor was just up. Why does he only have 2 Masterful 3s? This kid's trash. And what happens is that gets spread, and now you're... Like, there's just more levels and levels and levels, and, like, everybody's just mean to everybody. Like, you don't know when that person came back. They might not know Master's really good. Like, and I think, who said it? I don't know if it was Ian, if it was Max, or if it was Preach. But one of them said it, where it was like, You know, just because you're playing a certain spec or you're playing a certain class doesn't mean, oh, it was Ian when he was like, oh, you invite a mage to a Mythic Plus, right? And he turns out to be Frost. Your automatic instinct is to be like, this guy's a casual. Doesn't he know fire's really, really good? Why isn't he playing fire? He must not care to the same level I care. I'm kicking him out of my group. He doesn't belong here. And like, that's not the case. Like, I play Frost Mage. I play Frost Mage at a very competitive level. And like, I can hang with most fire mages in a like Mythic Plus. Obviously, you know, Ignite is really, really broken, but like, I understand the class enough to like hold my own in a Mythic Plus. But like, you never even get that chance because you're not playing, you know, Frost. I mean, you're not playing Fire, you're playing Frost, so you obviously don't know what you're talking about. And it sucks. Crap. Even in our raid, I played Frost the first 2 weeks, and everybody was like, oh. Like, obviously he's not competing with the Fire Mages, like, on certain fights. But I would always beat them on, you know, Drestagath. I held with them on Rathian and Mott and things like. I mean, I killed myself on Mott because one glacial spike and I'm dead. But like, I definitely turned a lot of heads, being like, "Oh, Frost is viable. Like, it's viable. It's not the most optimal." And what people don't understand is like, just because you're not playing the most optimal doesn't mean you're not viable. And like, people are, you know, misconstruing the two things, and that's where like the first level of toxicity happens. Frost from my deep. Could you imagine? The hell is this Frost Mage? Delete. It's funny. It's funny. And on the other end is like, my wife plays Boomy. Now Boomy's in a weird spot where if you get really good procs, you'll do really good, but even your really good is really bad. And people just assume the really bad means you're really bad, and it's not true. Like, Hob streamed this morning on his Boomy. He was like, I don't know, maybe 7th, 6th, 8th, like around there. Like, he wasn't at the top of the meters, he wasn't at the bottom of the meters, but he was still parsing like 86s, 90s, a couple 65s, but like, he was still doing really good, but just comparatively, it's really bad. And people don't differentiate the two. Like, they just see Boomy at the bottom of the meters, so Boomy's trash. Like, it sucks, because then you're shamed into playing a class that you want to play because it's fun. And the only time that kind of stuff matters is if you're trying to push world first. Like, if you're a top 100 US guild trying to push for like higher rankings, then obviously, you know, you should be playing the most optimal spec. But you already know that going into it. Like, you're not going to apply to a top 100 US guild and then be like, well, what do you mean I can't play enhancement? You know what I mean? Like, right, even that was just a number. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like, the game's not designed around the 1%. But what needs to happen is people, like, the game developers need to understand that everybody listens to the 1%. So like Max was saying, like, obviously one of the covenants is going to be the best. And people are just going to follow and emulate what the top guilds are doing. But like, they should design things knowing that. So either balance them out a little bit more. I mean, there's always going to be a better one. But if you balance them to the point where it doesn't matter for the majority, then I think they succeeded. And like, you're not going to please everybody, but I think they succeeded. But if you make something super outrageous, like, everybody's just going to pick it, and then it's lame. To be honest, most of my sets look whack anyway, so I'm good to sim the best. Right. Like, it's just, I don't know. I don't know what they can do. I don't envy being a Blizzard employee at this moment. Everybody's like, oh, listen to the community, but like, you gotta pick and choose what you're listening to, because
Yeah, they've got a lot to handle.
it's so much. Like, just so much. Like, oh no, there we go. My headset's dying. Hold on a sec. But like we said when we started this, was like, at least they're listening. And as long as they continue to listen and be transparent and give us their thought process of why they're doing things, I think we're headed in a really good direction, and I think Shadowlands is going to be really, really fun.
I hope so. I mean, everything that I've seen so far looks really cool, and like you said, right? One of them is going to be the best, and people are going to go with that one, and that'll be sort of the meta again. But yeah, I mean, if it's balanced in such a way that it's not a huge difference, it's to the point where if you pick a different one, you're actively hamstringing yourself, then
right.
It's got a shot at being successful in a way that enables people to
not regret the decisions that they make. And I think
play for the flavor,
right,
and not just the practical implication of like your damage output at the end of the day.
Yep, I totally agree. And it sounds like that's their mindset, so hopefully, they tweak it a little bit better, but at least they're heading down the right path.
And one of my friends and I were just talking about this evening. He was like, so do you know which Covenant you're going to play? Like, obviously, we know that one of them is going to be better than the rest, but and I was like, honestly, I'm probably going to pick the one that's going to give me the most benefit in PvP for, whatever character I main, probably a Demon Hunter. And then for the rest of them, I'll just kind of go for flavor and just like my Paladin will play the the Purity one or whatever it's called. I forget all their names already. Like go for the flavor and enjoy playing the game to experience the different paths that you can go down. But like also gonna pick one that's just practically the most favorable for what I'm doing.
Right, 100%. And like I said, if I main DH or if I main Monk, like whatever tank I main, I'm obviously gonna pick the Covenant that most benefits my raid team. But I play all 12 classes, so like I'll get to see everything. I think most people's gripe is that like the whole swapping is what's going to hinder them. But I mean,
it's interesting stuff.
It's I understand what Ian's saying, where he wants it to be a meaningful choice. Like you should, it should have an impact on your gameplay when you pick a Covenant, and you shouldn't be able to swap it that easily. But at the same time, it is a game. People want to try different things, so like at least make it a possibility
without having to regrind 40 hours of content.
Exactly.
Yeah. As much as I love doing the same daily quest over and over again.
No more. That's great though. That's great. Well, this was an enlightening talk.
I'm looking forward to whatever content you're going to put out in the future, because I like where your head's at. I like the stuff that you've been putting out. And it's been, for me at least, it's been super helpful. So.
All right, well, I appreciate it, and I will continue to do my best.
Hell yeah. I will continue to push your content to the people that I know who are getting back into the game.
Nice.
Oh, you don't know how to do mythics? Here, watch these.
Here you go. 100%. All right, well, I appreciate it.
Yeah, dude. All right, I'll catch you later. Have a good night.
All right, you too.
Adios.
All right, there you go. First episode, chatting with Cryo, in the bag. I really should snip this out, edit it. Could have recorded it. I think I could pull it from the VOD. The good news is I listen to music that's not copyright, so it shouldn't mute it. I could pull it from the VOD, turn this into my first podcast episode. We always talk about the same thing, and I never record it. But I feel like you said, I feel like a lot of people feel the same way, and just because it's not out there on a bigger platform, spoken by a bigger streamer, influencer, people don't take it as serious. So I don't know. Maybe I'll throw Asmongold in the title and clickbait it, and he'll watch it on his stream, and then maybe. Well, actually, I don't want to do that because I don't want 40,000 people commenting, "Oh, you're just a crybaby. Asmongold's better than you." I don't want to deal with all that nonsense. But I don't know. We'll see. I do think we need to keep going in this direction. I get that clickbait. Yeah, maybe not Asmon's community. Maybe I can get Max to watch it on his stream and see if he can just agree with one thing. Nailed it. Asmongold does play Alliance. He sure does. Human warrior. It's not for me. I mean, I like Alliance, but I like Horde. Like I said, I play for the lore, I play for the story, I play for the immersion. But I like playing both sides. Good at Tally's way. True. It'd be cool. Yeah. That was fun. I would love to do this, like, more often on different topics. Or Bajira. So I do like Bajira too, because he's again like the whole no nonsense. Like, you build the community you want. Like, even now, like I was gonna say earlier, like I don't stream for a lot of people, but I don't let that, deter me from like my mindset and where I'm headed. Because I'll get people that come in my chat and they'll try to start with like the toxicity, and I just ban them. Like, I don't, and like people will think, oh, you don't have that many viewers, you don't have that many chatters, don't you need that for your analytics so that you can get partnered and all that's like, no. I do this as a hobby, and like if I get partnered, great, that's awesome. If I get successful off it, awesome, that's great. But I'm not gonna jeopardize like my personal values for it. And I feel like that's kind of where Asmongold fell off a little bit. Where like he started off really, really great. And I really enjoyed watching him when he didn't have a sub button. And then as soon as he got a sub button, like he said, it kind of became, it did become his job. But his job was to provide entertainment, not, sell out. So maybe he ran out of stuff. Maybe he just lost sight of like what he really wanted to say. Maybe he didn't have a direction of what he wanted to say or where he wanted to go, and it just it just spirals out of control, and then you try to regain it. So I see that he did make changes, and like it turned into a circus, and like he definitely has the influence and the people and the support behind him that like even if he changed, like his people are still gonna stick with him. More of them, more so than less than them, are probably going to agree. They're going to be like, you know what? I actually don't like being this toxic all the time. Like, they're just afraid to say it, There's a lot of partner streamers. Surprising very large amount that are no nonsense and toxicity. Banning toxic people doesn't hinder your chances. Right, exactly. Like I said, Taoli, Bajira. I'd rather stream for 700 people consistently that I know have the same interest as me and actually support what I think than have 50,000 people that are just, you don't know who's in there. Like, most of it's nonsense, half of it's circus, the other half is like just memes. Like, I don't vibe with that. Maybe it's because I'm old. I don't know. I don't get Twitch lingo. I don't get it. It doesn't jive with me. I like to have real intellectual conversations with people, and I feel like a lot of people want that too. Like, you can still play games and be smart. Like, you don't have to be a dumb toxic nerd that just spews nonsense and memes. Like, I don't know, that's not entertaining to me. I don't want to watch that. Crazy. This was hella fun. I'm not gonna lie. Like everybody says, this is just chatting with buttons. Memes are fantastic in moderation. But when spam emotes and only emotes, I just sit there like, exactly. Like, you're not saying anything of value. You're just spewing nonsense. And it's like, you're not even spewing nonsense. You're spewing hieroglyphics. Okay, that's cool. Thanks for contributing to the conversation. But people see that. It gets them views, it gets them clicks, and they're just doing it for the wrong reasons, I guess. Like I said, this is a hobby. If it blows up, it blows up. If it doesn't, I'm going to school this fall. I start soon. I plan on doing stuff with that degree. Like, this isn't my end-all be-all right here. I would love to, after I get my degree, keep streaming, but I'll be doing like outdoorsy stuff with animals because that's what I'm going to school for. Like, I would love to do that, find a way to transition that way. But, you gotta start small. Takes a while. But this was hella fun. Shout out to all the new follows. the gifted subs, the new subs, the primes. I appreciate all of you. It does not go unnoticed. It helps me help you. It's great. I love it. I appreciate it. Big shout out. I don't even know how to say that name though. Sodas. Big shout out to him. Having him on the show. Round of applause for him. He's on the first ever chatting with Cryo. Like I said, I would love to do more stuff like that. So if you guys have topics, ideas, questions, anything like that, hit me up in Discord, DM me, whatever. Leave them on comments on YouTube videos. I don't know. Shoot me at Twitter. I don't know. Things like that though. So does. Okay, we're good. But yeah, I think that's the start of something really, really fun. But as for me, that is it for me. I am done. Thank you guys for hanging out. I appreciate it. I love doing this stuff. It's great. Like I said, I'll be back Monday doing last minute Monday stuff. Get you some keys if you guys need keys. If you guys want alts run, I'll do alt runs. I don't care. Everybody starts somewhere. But yeah, I'm gonna spend some time with the dog, spend some time with the wife, enjoy this weekend, and I'll be back on Monday. Thank you guys again for the support, the gifted subs, the follows, the subscribers, the primes. It all means a lot, and it makes me want to keep doing what I'm doing. That's it from me. Peace.